I'm Laura from Tyler, Texas. You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge from KFUO Radio.
You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Rachel.
It's a book club wrap-up episode today. And this is a part 1 of 2 also for book club, which occasionally, maybe this is only the second time we've done it.
Not often, though.
We don't do this very often where you get a 2-part book club. So, Rachel, tell us what we're doing today.
We are reviewing, revisiting, recapping, however you want to say it, our latest book club book, which was Joel Biermann's Day 7 for Work, Rest, or Play. So this is a book that seeks to unpack that very mysterious third commandment, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy.
Yes.
And it does it in ways that are, frankly, a little unexpected. Now, I will just go ahead and say the treat we have for you 2 weeks from now is we are releasing an interview with the author in which we're going to discuss a lot of the themes in this book with him. And that is a fabulous conversation. I hope you can all tune in for that. So as a result, our conversation today might not be quite as in-depth as it might otherwise be because we've already had that conversation with Dr. Biermann and we know what's coming. So if there's a question that you really want to think through with regard to Sabbath keeping or the balance between work and leisure and worship and rest and all the rest of it, and it's not answered today, don't worry, it's probably coming in our next episode. So as we always do at the beginning of these book club conversations, I'm just going to ask you all for your hot takes. How did you enjoy this book?
I found it very thought-provoking. I also did not find it light reading.
It's not that long, but
it's not that long. It's compelling, but also just not something that is easy reading. So I am currently in a season. I mean, it's an appropriate topic to discuss and consider during the season that I'm in. But right now, my work is far more intense than usual. I have a period of time where I am very loaded, fully loaded. And because of that, I often find that when I am not at work, the time that I might indulge in leisure pursuits, shall we say, I need less mentally rigorous leisure pursuits during this time. And so when I would get in the groove, and I really enjoyed reading it, but it just wasn't one that I was all of my free time, I have to know what happens next. I need to sit down and just read and read and read. It was more of, am I mentally in the right place to be able to dive into this?
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. It just wasn't, I didn't have my usual capacity for it that I might at other times.
It's interesting that you point that out because I should have had plenty of capacity to just speed through this book. And I also did not. And that wasn't because it was particularly long. And that wasn't because it was particularly dense or, academic or hard to read. It was fairly accessible. The reason was because I just wanted to digest it more slowly.
Yeah.
And what often happened as I was reading, if anybody else was in the room, I was slowed down by saying, hey, Ken or Chris or Ella or whoever was in the room with me, hang on, I got to read this. You read through this paragraph. It's really good. And it's really hard to speed through a book when you're reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. But I understand how if you did not have a lot of bandwidth, that kind of reading experience would not be particularly zippy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a book. I mean, Dr. Biermann is so wonderful at making you think.
Yeah.
And think differently about a topic that maybe you didn't realize you needed to think differently about. So it does take a lot of brain effort to like think through it and like analyze whether or not you agree with what he's saying and stuff. So yeah, I can understand that. I guess it's not really cheating, but we interviewed Dr. Biermann on this book for the coffee hour a few months ago. So I actually read it originally over the summer. At some point, I read it partially on a plane. I don't remember which plane ride it was because I traveled a lot this summer.
Okay.
But I remember reading it on the plane. So I had the space, I had the time, and I actually made myself read it on a plane. I'm not always good at reading the things I bring with me, but I got to read it. I had to read it for work because I didn't really have a choice. But I was really happy to read it. I love Dr. Biermann's work. I love what he says about topics because it makes you see things from a different angle. And I really, really appreciate when people take something that I think I know and then show me that I don't actually know everything about it. I love that experience of having my brain expanded. So I really enjoyed reading it. I liked that it's not really long, which is nice. So as long as you have the bandwidth, it doesn't take forever to read it slower if you're able to do that. He talks about it being not a self-help book. Doesn't he say something about it like showing the meaning of life or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
He does. This book is about the meaning of life.
Yeah. And
which is a bold claim.
That's right. But I appreciate that like he doesn't bill it as a self-help book, which is great. But also like what he says, these are things that you can take to heart and change how you live your life and what your priorities are and what your intentions are. So it's not self-help, but it also is something that can help you focus better on certain things in your life. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
It definitely is not self-help. And I would say if you are reading this to try and get a prescriptive answer for how to keep Sabbath the Lutheran way, good luck. You will not find that here.
No.
I was kind of hoping I'd find that here, but I did not. And that's okay, because what I got was better. But this was a book. Thank you for reading along with me, ladies, because it's a topic that I've wrestled with a lot over the years, and we'll get into this more during our conversation with Dr. Biermann. But there is such a widely divergent understanding of what it means to keep Sabbath in Christianity that I had been very confused about it for a long time. There are the people who just will not do any work whatsoever on Sunday. Or then there's the Seventh-day Adventists. They won't do it on Saturday because they're pretty sticklers about that. There are the people who will just go to church and then go home and take a nap and then go to church again and then go to bed. Then there are the people who, on the other end, are like, well, Jesus fulfilled the Sabbath. We don't have to do anything. Go to church if you like. You can go to church on Thursday. If you have to work on Sunday, no problem, because we're all saved by grace. And this commandment has been fulfilled, doesn't really apply to us anymore. And that also is kind of unsatisfying, because it seems like all the other 10 commandments, they still apply, right?
Yes.
Just because Jesus died for our sins, we don't go around committing adultery. And so this was one that I've really struggled with and was really looking forward to digging into with Dr. Biermann. As I said, there's no easy answers in this book, but there is a framework set forth for thinking about it. And you can't start with, what do I do on Sundays? No. You start with, how has God set up time in the universe to work?
Yes. I love it.
And then you go from there, and you don't start with rest, because that's not where God started. You start with work. Because if you look at Sabbath is in some sense a cessation from work, well, you first got to look at what work is. Anyway, and this book got into all of these topics, and I really appreciated the opportunity to reflect more deeply on the relationship of work to rest. Although we didn't really talk about rest very much. We talked about leisure, contemplation. Yes. We'll get to that in a little bit. We talked about worship within leisure. Did you know worship is leisure?
I do now.
I do know. Talk about sleep, talk about play, and then also just talked about this idea of the receptive life. Now, for those who have not done deep dives into the history of Christian thought, this might not make a whole lot of sense, but if you have encountered this ongoing tension between the two Christian ideals, and you see this especially in the different religious orders in the Middle Ages. You've got the people pursuing the active life. Those are the ones who are going to go out and preach and do good works and heal the sick and, do stuff. These are the Marthas of the church. And then you've got the contemplative life. And these are the Marys of the church. They are going to stay in their monasteries. They are going to meditate on the word of God. They are going to pray for everybody. They're going to pray for everybody, which is great. This is also good and holy work. But there's this tension. Which way is better? Active, contemplative, active, contemplative. Mm-hmm. And so tied up in this is this Sabbath versus work versus Sabbath kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he jumps right into that conversation that's been going on for over 1,000 years and says, how about this? How about the receptive life? How about we receive from God and we pass on to everybody else?
Yeah.
Anyway, I found that a very helpful model for helping me think through the next steps in this conundrum that is not completely solved, but little bits of it are coming into place for me. So I'm grateful for it. That actually covers question 1. Why did you want to read this book? That appeared in our book club discussion last week. It was kind of a quiet week for us. Lots going on in a lot of people's lives, so it wasn't perhaps as lively. It was more restful, interestingly enough. Restful book club discussion than we've had sometimes, but we're really grateful for everyone who did jump in and offer some really wonderful insights on some of the issues in this book. And as we usually do at this point in our discussion, I want to open it up to each of you to pick a question that we talked through with the book club online last week, and we'll dive into it more deeply here today.
Well, I wanted to discuss more question number 3.
Yes.
Okay. This is the question that dives into the topic of leisure. Mm-hmm. And this chapter in the book, I was very intrigued at first, and it took a little bit for it to all come together for me with how he was approaching leisure as not rest. Mm-hmm. And again, that's what a lot of people often think of as leisure, but instead the whole concept of the pursuit of leisure. Mm-hmm. In the question that you asked, you were asking how did the ancient philosophers and Dr. Biermann understand the concept of leisure? And what does it look like according to this standard? And I really appreciated he drew out the concepts of truth, goodness, and beauty. Yes. And leisure is really the activity of focusing and contemplating and pursuing those concepts. And ideally, those concepts in unity in some way. So not just I'm going to just focus on truth separate from the other. And he actually makes a case that at its most essential, you can't separate them. That truth is, the idea of truth is what is really real. And goodness is what is actually right. And if something is both true and good, then it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And if something is actually both good and beautiful, it is true. And so I really enjoyed the way those 3 things played together in that. And he then, near the end of the chapter, I was way more compelled and moved as I was reading it on the concept of the amateur pursuit, love, involvement in art. And as not as your job, not as work, not as this is my full vocation, but just the fascination and love of creating and making something that is beautiful. And just, it's one of those that I'll have to give more thought to. Why did that particular section just, I don't know, it just really struck at me. And why did it move me so much reading that? I would need more time thinking about it, but loved it and loved that concept of that this is something that as Christians, he also makes the case that this is something that Christians should be upholding to the culture at large. Like, we should be upholding the truth and goodness. He's like, we do that when we're pretty good at that one. But the whole beauty
Lutherans are really good at truth, kind of good at goodness, and not real good at beauty, which is the aesthetic side of things.
We should be doing this. And he's like, but it's not just as the church, but just in our lives, in our homes, just in how we engage with creation.
It's a great quote here.
God's creation and our creation, and what we create in imitation of God.
Yeah.
What is true and good is beautiful, and what is beautiful is true and good. Beauty is not merely in the eye of the beholder. Like truth and goodness, beauty accords with, declares, and revels in God's plan built into the fabric of his creation. Christians should seek out, praise, study, enjoy, and share what is beautiful. I'm sure to you, artsy, creative people, this was like water in the desert to read this.
Oh,
it's so freeing. It was just,
I don't know. It's like you're seen. Maybe that's what it is. I'm seen in this. I can, it resonates because you suspect it, but to hear someone else be like, yes, and here's why.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel a lot less weird about taking pictures of all the flowers on the walks that I go on because I think they're beautiful.
I know.
I feel so validated.
And that is I think he would agree, a Sabbath inspired practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
To pay attention to the beauty of God's creation and to draw other people's attention to it as well in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I found it, Erin, so helpful to be reminded of that ancient perspective on leisure.
Yeah.
That for the ancient Greek philosophers, leisure didn't mean goofing off. It didn't mean being lazy. It meant not having to spend all day, every day, scratching food out of the ground so you could eat, and instead being able to devote time and energy to thinking about the big questions of life. It wasn't not work. It was just work of the mind and of the soul rather than physical labor necessary for survival.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really helpful because nowadays we have a very warped understanding of leisure.
Yeah.
My kids would define it as vegging.
Yeah.
We love to veg.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is probably a side effect of 100 years of mass media entertainment.
Yeah.
Where
the younger kids even, I believe the term is rot.
Rot. Oh, yeah, the brain rot.
Now it's down to rot.
Yeah.
Head rot, just rotting. It's which is descriptive and more accurate than I know. And yet, somehow it's very interesting because it is descriptive. And I don't think people view it as they aren't recognizing what the word actually.
Yeah. And that complicates all our understandings of Sabbath. That for so many people, leisure means sitting still and passively consuming content that was created to entertain you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Greeks would have, if they caught you, if they saw that we had somehow made it so we didn't have to be out in the fields every day, and we still weren't using one single brain cell to contemplate the meaning of life, they would come up and slap us.
What are you even doing?
This is stupid. You are stupid.
Yeah.
And I think that any conversation of Sabbath needs to take into account that cultural reality, that For us, leisure is no longer reading a book and pondering the deep truths in it. It's no longer sitting on the porch and watching the birds and the butterflies and marveling at God's creation. It's sitting on a couch staring at a screen, maybe two or three screens at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Yep. You've got your background TV and you've got your little handheld screen too. And
then you might have a laptop that you're pretending to work on on top of it. So this sort of warps and colors all of our understanding, and until we acknowledge that, we're not going to be able to process it. But the mere fact that Dr. Biermann just calls that right out and is like, okay, we're going to talk about leisure in a different way, in an older, stronger way. That is freeing up your hands so your mind and your soul are free to focus on God's glory. And he actually ties worship on Sunday as a leisure activity, because it's the ultimate example of doing that, of receiving God's grace and reflecting it.
Yeah,
that was very, very helpful. I think not rest. He doesn't talk much about rest in the book, which is interesting, but a lot about leisure.
Yeah. Okay, so the question that I wanted to cover is 4. You essentially posit that the book is about time, how we structure our days and weeks in a way that are both God-pleasing and humanly satisfying. What insights have you gleaned from the book about good and bad ways to use the days that God has given you? Will you be making any personal or familial adjustments to the way in which you think about and manage your time going forward? So I love fitting all of the pieces together. So like the stuff about leisure was kind of mind-blowing, like we've been talking about. Thinking about work in a different way, thinking about rest, the small part you talks about that, and sleep and play. I love talking about play. I want to talk about play more. It is so interesting to think about the psychology of play and how necessary it is. And then fitting all of that into kind of a different mindset, a different way of thinking about how we spend our time, this whole receptive life. And it took me, well, for one thing, it inspired me to quit feeling so guilty about a lot of stuff. Specifically spending time with friends when I also have other stuff to do. It's on the weekends, I have chores. Now I have homework again. You know, we've got to make food. We have church. We have all of these other things. And so oftentimes the time with friends gets put on the back burner because we're like, oh, we'll just do it another week when we're not busy. But newsflash, we're adults. We're never not busy. So it really inspired me to just take the time, take a day off of work and just go spend time with people, because spending time with people is actually really important. Being in community with people. I think that was part of the leisure chapter, if I remember right. Being in community with people and not feeling guilty about it, not being productive, just being with people. I think I was just coming off of our church picnic, or we were coming up to it. It was around church picnic time or something. I don't remember. But thinking about that idea of why we have church picnics, why we have our Wednesday nights at church where we just come together and eat meals together and just be together. That kind of stuff is important. So a lot of the book inspired a lot of just, priority shifting. Thinking about the intentionality behind the stuff that we do and why we do it. And it was really freeing of I am choosing to spend my time with people or doing homework and not begrudging my homework. Cause I'm putting my brain to work. I'm learning stuff that's useful for me to serve other people. And that's a joyful thing. That's fun, even though I have to do it. Yeah. But it's also something that I know is useful for other people. So there's just been a lot of freedom to do the things that I do because I have been equipped to do them. I don't know that we've really made family switches. I guess I don't think we've really changed anything. We've always been involved in a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of choirs in our schedule, especially right now in the High Lutheran Feast season of Reformation. There's just a lot on our calendars right now because of all of the choirs. But that in itself also is probably categorized as a leisure activity, I think.
Absolutely.
Because we're it's definitely not rest, but it's not work. It's not really play either. Because we're doing this in order to do something, which doesn't really fall under the play category, but we're also learning music and practicing it so that we can share it with other people. And just having that intentionality behind all of the things that we do and prioritizing what's actually important it's been fun to just have that kind of shift in mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I have felt a lot less heavy about, like, I know I have a lot to do. And especially right now, there are days when I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get everything done. Today is one of those days. But like everything has its place. Everything has its purpose. And I've been gifted the time and the ability to do all of these things. And so there's just a shifting of begrudging attitude to an attitude of joy, being able to receive the things that because people are also able to pour into me during these times too. Like, it's not just me constantly giving all of my time. Like, there are other people around me also at the same time that are able to, like, we're all just sharing and we're all together.
Yeah. And I think as you bring out this sort of complicated interplay of work and leisure and play and rest and sleep, although, again, we're not talking much about rest somehow.
Sleep is still important, guys. Sleep,
still an amazing thing. But Dr. Biermann in the book spends a lot of time talking about work.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important when you're framing your Sabbath discussions. Work is not evil.
No.
Work is not good. This drudgery you get through and then, oh, yay, it is now time for Sabbath. I can be lazy for 24 hours before I go back to that awful work stuff again.
This is not how it
work
works.
was given to Adam to do in the garden before the fall. Like, it was made worse by sin, but it wasn't inaugurated by sin. To be a participant in God's work of creating, in God's work of serving, is a beautiful thing. And it is delightful. I mean, yes, there are some kinds of work that are not very pleasant, but nearly all work, there is meaning, there is purpose in it. And in many kinds of work, there is delight. And I think sometimes, and maybe this is a Lutheran thing, we have a lot of workaholics in our fellowship. We get this part pretty well, but it's nice to see it all laid out there. But your vocation extends in all of your life, right? And this is why this receptive life model is really helpful. In all aspects of our lives, we receive God's gifts and we share them with those around us. In our work, that's what we do. Receive God's gifts and share them with those around us. In our leisure, as you're describing your church picnic, I'm just reminded of this, gotta be the closest thing to paradise we experience in this life, is the fellowship of believers in the divine service, and often in the fellowship activities that if things are going well are accompanying that, that the joy we share simply being together, receiving God's gifts and laughing and playing and working, all of that, it is paradise, or at least a little taste of it. But I think I love that there is balance. Not exactly balanced, because 1 out of 7 is not balanced necessarily, but there is a rhythm built into life. And that's why this time question is great, that we don't have to say work is bad, leisure is good, or leisure is bad, work is good. They are both good, and we can receive them both, and we can share them both. I really enjoyed the opportunity to reflect more deeply on that. As far as time goes, I'm with you. I'm not sure it will immediately change my schedule. What it is going to change is my attitude towards my schedule. That when it is time to work, I will not feel guilty. I will embrace that. I will find the delight in that. When it is time for leisure, we'll try really hard not to feel guilty. I will embrace that, realizing that it too is part of God's good plan for my life. I will try to avoid as much as possible the kinds of leisure that are absolutely pointless. I mean, play is supposed to be pointless, right? But you know what I'm talking about. The lazy leisure, the rot. Avoid the rot. And instead allow myself time for the kinds of leisure that are actually very enriching and very restful and satisfying. Even if it is just sitting on the back deck watching the birds, because that's what I like to do sometimes.
I don't have her name in front of me, but one of the people who commented in the book club, it was on one of the first days. I was struck. Her comment was that she has thought about how Sabbath can sometimes it helps to think about like the balancing that you were talking about and contrasting, like if your regular work is very much of the mind, then use your leisure time for something to work your body. If your regular work is manual labor, then use your leisure time to, exercise your mind, things along those lines. And I was struck the concept of the sort of looking for balance and wholeness in that we're created as these physical creatures with very active minds, and we are the whole package. And yet often in our lives we sort of slot ourselves. I think people tend to really focus on one aspect primarily, and whether that is the scholar who does spend all his time deep in books and contemplating and all of that. There's still more that God has given us, all of these aspects, and so to remember to engage with the whole aspect of creation, and that's going to look different for different people.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, when I was working full time in a publishing house and reading books all the time, I never read books in my off hours.
Yeah.
Because I needed a rest from it.
Right.
I did yard work on the weekends, and it felt so good.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
So finding ways to balance out your experience of God's good world can be a really helpful practice.
I also think about, I know some people, I have some friends, a couple family members who have made some choices with their careers, in that they've not chosen a career. They do not want, in some ways people would look at it and they're like, well, you don't even have a career per se, you have jobs. But that's been a deliberate choice because they want to have the freedom of time, that not devoting themselves to a job that expects 50, 60 hours a week of pouring yourself into it fully while you're at the office, and also being available outside of the office on weekends and that sort of thing, because they want the freedom to be able to do other things with their time. And that might be, contemplation, writing, things along those lines that aren't paying the bills, but they want to be able to do that. And that's something that our culture doesn't really hold up and respect as a choice, but it's a choice that after engaging with this, it does give me a little more, I don't know, it gives me a different perspective on their choice and the value that they have chosen in that way.
It's that total work culture of oh, you must work all the time and give your blood, sweat, and tears, otherwise you aren't valuable as a person. It's no, that's not how it works. I mean, working is also a vocation, but it's okay if you work a job that allows you to live, and then you choose to spend time with other things. That's
one of the weirdest trends. This is totally off topic, but one of the weirdest trends that hit within the last couple of years was the rise of the lazy girl job.
Oh.
Did you hear about that at all?
No.
It was a sort of resistance movement against the type of the girl boss or the boss lady.
Okay.
And the rise of young women especially saying, I don't want to be the boss. Exactly what you were saying, Erin. I don't want to work 50, 60 hours a week. I want to sit at my desk for a certain number of hours each day. I want to go home. I don't want my work to follow me home. And I don't want to have to completely kill myself while I'm there. Yeah. And that this is, these are your, think the classic receptionist, secretary type jobs that somehow they were just having a moment for a bit as people were pushing back against this careerism that is almost in the waters if you live in America. The idea that you belong to a career
Yeah.
And that is where you give the most meaningful work of your life. I, of course, have a different perspective on that, being, I guess, a homemaker, a home educator, freelancer on the side. I work so hard, you guys.
Yeah.
I don't get paid I only get paid for about 10% of my work.
Yeah.
Maybe 5, let's say 5%. Let's be generous here. But a lot of people look for there to be a direct connection from your work to your income. And of course, that is not my reality.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is a big part of the question, because very often you only get paid for a small percentage of your quote unquote work.
Yeah.
Whether that's coming home from the office, throwing down your purse and starting to cook dinner for your kids, or spending your Saturdays mowing the lawn, doing the laundry. Chores are work. Volunteering at church, teaching Sunday school, that's work. You are serving your neighbor with the gifts that God has given you. You may or may not get paid for that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Well, I think we have just about wrapped up our conversation, or at least as much as we're going to have of this conversation during this episode, because again, Dr. Biermann is on in 2 weeks. Don't miss it. A conversation is wonderful.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts on day 7, our 2025 Reformation read?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Be prepared to have your mind expanded a little bit. It's good.
Yeah.
Be prepared to not have all your questions answered, but to have questions answered that you didn't know you needed to ask.
Yes. Yep.
You might end up with more questions than when you started.
That's true.
You'll be happy.
Not a bad thing.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think what will happen in my life is I will begin gradually to see this book bear fruit in subtle ways, little changes in perspective, little changes in the way I do things, the timing I do things, that I use to do things, and the various emphases that I place on various parts of my life. So check back with me in a year, I guess, and I'll tell you how this book has changed my life. Right now, it's hard to see, but I can see things in motion. Bing. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, thanks for reading with us on this one. I think we need to talk about our next club pick, don't we now?
Yeah, we do.
What should it be?
What are we doing?
Musical theater, apparently.
That's a different episode.
So, all right, on this podcast, so we're coming into January. That's our next book club read. It's after the holidays. Everyone will be on a total fruitcake aftermath coma. So we can't have anything too difficult.
Truth.
Although we did do George Herbert once in January.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
That was so good, though.
It was good. But this year we'll give you a chance to, work off the sugar crash. Because Sarah informed me that even though we have read a fair amount of C.S. Lewis in this book club before,
It's true.
that she has never, ever, ever read my absolute favorite C.S. Lewis book, probably one of my top 5, certainly top 10 books of all time.
The Magician's Nephew?
That one is the best.
She's read that one.
I love that one so much.
That's silly. That was a joke, Sarah.
Oh.
No, it is good. But you guys, this is almost scandalous.
Yeah.
Sarah Gulseth has never read the Screwtape Letters.
It's shocking. True. I've read pages from it. I have not read the whole thing. I think I remember, I don't know how young I was. I must have been very young. I'm pretty sure my parents had a copy of it in one of the cute little built-in bookshelves next to their fireplace. This is engraved in my memory. And I remember reading some of it, but I have not read the whole thing, and definitely not as an adult. So I'm excited.
I've read the whole thing probably 5 times in the last 5 years, at least.
Oh, boy. This is going to be good.
Okay.
This is one of the few books that we'll be reading that I actually probably have significant chunks of it memorized.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Yeah, no, it is almost infinitely quotable. I think it's high time. Part of me wanted to read something new and different, but then a larger part of me wanted to correct this terrible injustice and force Sarah to do something she's going to absolutely love.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting about this timing is that I will be just coming off of my deaconess intensive for spiritual care.
Yeah.
When I'm reading this book. So the layering is going to be really interesting coming off of literally 2 weeks of everyday classes on spiritual care. So, yeah.
If you are not yet familiar with C.S. Lewis's classic, The Screwtape Letters, it's a short book. It is a book of letters from a desk-bound senior tempter to a junior tempter working the field. He imagines, this is so awkward to even talk about this on air because it's such a crazy premise.
It's so weird and I love it.
He imagines hell as like this almost like FBI level bureaucracy. And you've got that the junior tempters are like field agents out tailing various patients, human beings out there, and trying their best to make sure that they stay, fully entrenched in their sin natures and on the path to the place they don't want to go. And so this is just a book of letters of advice on how to manage one man before and during the start of World War II and the Battle of Britain. You look at how he chooses his friends, how he deals with spiritual highs and lows, his relationship with his mother, temptations involving the ladies, lots of different areas covered, and a whole lot of, themes relating to Christian theology and philosophy, just sort of in, how pictures can be in negative. Well, nowadays they can't because they're all digital. But when you're looking at a negative image, dark is light and light is dark. And that's how this book is. And it really gets your attention. It's not Lutheran, but it's pretty close. And I find new insights in my own spiritual life every time I read it and understand better the temptations that face me. Because honestly, when it comes to temptation, there really isn't anything new under the sun.
Right.
We face all the same temptations over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you learn to recognize them and learn to look them in the face, understand them for what they are, you are much better able to resist them.
Yep.
Also, it's a really funny book for what it is. It shouldn't be funny, but it is. Parts of it are very.
I love it. Yeah. I'm so excited to actually have an excuse to read this now.
I have an assignment.
And unlike day 7, it shouldn't take you more than 4 or 5 hours if you're going slowly through it. Yeah. Erin's like, yes, thank you.
It'll be great. I'm excited.
And there are plenty of audiobook editions available. Yeah. My favorite audiobook edition I can't find on Audible, which is a shame. Years and years ago, John Cleese of Monty Python did an audiobook narration of this that is absolutely phenomenal. Oh, man. So if you can find even a few minutes of that, you will enjoy it. But there are lots of other talented narrators who have taken on this book. So if you are an audiobook reader, this is your day.
Yes.
Yay.
All right. So our January book club, we have this on our calendar already too, don't we?
I think we do.
Yeah. Yeah. So this will be the last week of January. Go grab your books. Oh, you could even ask for it for Christmas if you don't have it. It's a perfect Christmas gift.
That is true.
Or gift it to everyone else and tell them to join you in a book club. I don't know.
Ooh, I like how you think.
You could make that one of your New Year's resolutions.
Do a book club.
And you would be provided with ready-made discussion questions.
Yes, you would. Yes.
Well, and honestly, this is a great book to read in the new year as we are all examining our lives between New Year's resolutions and Lent and looking for those areas in which we are weak. And there's nobody like Screwtape for understanding where human beings have natural weak points.
Yeah.
So,
no, this will be great.
This will be fantastic.
I'm excited.
Of course, our book club happens in the Lutheran Ladies Lounge Facebook group, so you can join that group if you're not already in it. Sorry, guys, it's women only. But the event will be asynchronous, so there'll be an event posted, and then Rachel posts questions, and then everybody answers them.
Yeah.
And we have a little
also follow
discussion.
them on Instagram.
That is true.
And that one is not restricted to ladies only.
That is true. So the week after the episode drops, I will post all the questions on Instagram. So the week after this one drops, the questions for day 7 will be posted on Instagram. And the week after Screwtape Letters drops, those questions will be on Instagram too. So feel free to join the discussion there as well. This has been really fun, Rachel. I'm so excited.
Me too. I love revisiting old favorites. Like, there are some books that I'm always excited to read them again. So thank you for coming with me on this journey. And just as the poet William Wordsworth raved about Tintern Abbey when his sister saw it for the first time, I will also take new delight in this book, reading it through your eyes, Sarah.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
It's going to be great. You can join our Facebook group to find all of the rest of our book club episodes. If you really love book club and want another one to go through, there are several posted in our Facebook group, the Lutheran Ladies Lounge, also on our Instagram at Lutheran Ladies Lounge, and all of our episodes are at kfuo.org/Lutheran Ladies Lounge, or on your favorite podcasting app, or on the KFUO radio app. You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Rachel.
Views and opinions expressed on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast may not represent the official position of the management or ownership of KFUO Radio, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Lutheran Ladies Lounge is produced by KFUO Radio and available at kfuo.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a review for us too. If you love the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast, consider financially supporting our producer, KFUO Radio, so we can keep doing what we do. Find out how at kfuo.org/give. This is very exciting. Rachel, tell us.
Wow, that
Why
was
are you
loud.
making noise?
In the middle of the
Windows!
Oh, that shouldn't be possible.
No!
Now I'm checking all my devices. Silenced. Yes, they are.
That should not make noise. Oh, I don't know how to fix it easily. All right, let's keep going on.
Okay. It's probably coming in our next episode. Sarah, control your pet over there.
Why? I'm so mad right now. I don't know how to make it stop.